Good morning, everyone. Good day. Hello. Happy Monday. If you are here in the Northern Hemisphere, Western Hemisphere, happy Tuesday. If you're elsewhere, hello. Welcome to Encapsulation, 3 Keys to Building a Blissful Life. This is the kickoff masterclass for Golden Threads, the global event that is occurring this week. Thank you so much for signing up for this truly beautiful experience. I feel still incredibly honored to have had these remarkable conversations with really extraordinary visionaries, teachers, healers, and wisdom keepers. So I can't wait for you to experience all of that. And I am so excited to get started today with encapsulation. I just want to start out with a quick comment on the name of this masterclass, because encapsulation actually came to me originally as the name for this summit. And as I was working through with guidance what to call the event that you're experiencing this week, encapsulation then morphed into the title for this masterclass today. So it has a really profound symbolism to me in terms of being this sort of foundational experience of this week that you will experience coming up. So as we're getting started, and maybe some people are still going to be joining us, I'd love to know in the chat where you are in the world. This was such a fun aspect of last night, the Accessing the Aurelian Door Opening to Bliss opening ceremony that I hosted. And if you were there last night, I would love to know. But please do share where you are. Oh, Nashville. I love Nashville so much. Hello from Ontario. I'm mispronouncing that. Lagos, California. Germany. Hello. Boulder, Colorado. Oh, I love Colorado. I have family there. Maine, Montreal. Sylvie, bienvenue encore. California, Virginia Beach. Hello, Patty. You loved last night's session. Thank you so much. I felt so lit up after that. It was a really incredible experience. Ithaca, New York. I went to school in Clinton, New York, so I know all, and actually I went to a cross camp in Ithaca at Cornell. So it is gorgeous there, gorgeous in Ithaca. Washington State, Wilmington. There is a replay, Roxanne, that will go out later today. It's also accessible on the event schedule page. South Carolina, Manhattan Beach, Maine. Yes, you were there last night, Wanda. Thank you for attending. Links from Peterborough, Ontario. Hello from Florida, Diana, welcome. And ooh, Aberdeen, Scotland. How wonderful, how wonderful. Great start last night, back again from Winnipeg. Thank you, welcome. Yes, last night we did a gentle movement practice. We did a guided Tonglen meditation. It was guided, it was a little bit channeled for me too. I just closed my eyes and allowed the information to move through me. I will be doing a little bit of that today as well. Minnesota, Vancouver, Florida, hello. And Connecticut, I am based in Connecticut, Wilmington, North Carolina on the coast. And from the Netherlands, hello. Oh, I love the Netherlands, Amsterdam, one of my favorite places. In addition to many other places in the world. Iowa, hello, Julie, welcome. Oh my goodness, yes. So a replay from last night will be available. There will also be a replay of our session today. And I think maybe we are ready to get started. I'm going to take a quick sip of my lemon water here. And just, I'm hearing to take a breath. So this breath is for me. It is for all of us. Again, something that I spoke to last night is that the breath is always available to us. It's one of our most powerful tools. And it is one of the tools we very easily forget when we are stressed or anxious or excited. Our bodies can sort of tense up and we want to hold our breath. So let's just take a nice deep breath in together, inhaling through the nose, maybe even constricting the back of the throat to create that ujjayi sound of the sea. Inhaling, filling the lungs, and exhaling again through the nose. And let's just do 2 more. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling. And one last breath, inhaling and exhaling. Okay, just really sinking into the body, preparing to receive this information that encapsulation will provide you. And I also now feel more prepared to deliver it. And so I mentioned in the beginning that encapsulation came to me as a name for this summit when I originally started tuning into what this summit would look like, what the structure would be. And of course, as we create things in the world, we have to allow them to develop and release our attachment to what we think they might be in the beginning. But then, of course, we can bring that in different ways. So I feel really so complete making encapsulation the title of this masterclass. And the structure of it, I do have some slides to share. And you might recognize some of what I talk about. I take a very multidimensional, multidisciplinary approach to my perspective on the personal development journey and the journey of self-discovery, which I really look at as sort of the holy grail of our existence, that we want to know who we are. That is truly everyone's purpose, is to know who we are, and in my opinion, to live a life of love and joy. So when we discover who we are, when we come to a place of such supreme and radical self-love, that is the most extraordinary medicine that we can find in this world, in this moment of our own existence. And I have discovered this in my own personal journey. And as I was tuning in again to creating this masterclass today, I remembered a very specific moment when I was a teenager, and I was in the aisles of a drugstore, like a Walgreens, I guess. And I just saw all of these things on the shelves that were promising to solve all of these problems. And of course, I was a teenager. I had, some skin inflammation, and I had some emotions that I didn't know how to deal with. And so I looked at all of these shelves and I thought, oh, the answers must be outside of me. I just have to fix these problems. And of course, now many decades later and many awakenings later, I realize that medicine is within us, but it looks different for everyone. The journey of finding it, the journey of developing it, the journey of crafting it, it takes a different form for all of us. But when we find it, that is the encapsulation. We are the encapsulation. We are our own best medicine. And also, when the name encapsulation came to me, it made me think of The Matrix, which is a movie from the late 90s. I don't know has anyone seen The Matrix? I envision that a lot of people have experienced The Matrix. And if you haven't, it's a story of a man who lives in a very technologically advanced world. Yes, Roxanne, you've seen it. And he has an awakening, this sort of like energy from another aspect of existence contacts him, and he realizes that he has a calling to sort of save humanity, save existence. So his name is Neo, And the specific scene that came to mind when I had this download of the name encapsulation was that moment when he meets the oracle, and he then is offered the different pills that he can take. He can take a pill that keeps him asleep and sort of plugged into his little bathtub in, this, he's being controlled, mind controlled, as are a lot of other people, or he can take the pill that represents awakening. And of course, once you take the pill of awakening, you can't go back, but that's where the real thrill is in life. That's where the real joy is. That's where the real bliss is, when you fully accept all aspects of your experience and your existence. And so I guess we're all a little bit of a Neo here in this world. So thank you again for being here. I think that it is time to start my slides. I know that they will help me ground down into delivering all of this information. So I will share my screen here and say again, welcome to Encapsulation, 3 Keys to Building a Blissful Life. I should introduce myself. I am Helena Grant, a transformational life coach, as well as a trained 200-hour yoga teacher. And as I said before, I take a very multidimensional, multidisciplinary approach to helping people build blissful, beautiful lives from the inside out. So excited to commence here with encapsulation, and we are going to kick it off right off the bat with the 3 keys, because I mean, this is the structure of what we're talking about today. These 3 keys to building a blissful life. And key number 1, surrender. Key number 2, retrieve. And key number 3, receive. So these 3 words we might hear a lot. I personally hear surrender quite frequently, and it has come through on a regular basis through guidance, which I hear both consciously and also very frequently when I'm sort of in an alpha state, particularly as I am coming back into full consciousness from my dreamscape. And so, I'm feeling a little pain in my heart right now, but I think it's the pain of excitement and of moving forward with, again, delivering this incredible messaging to all of you and to the world. So surrender. I have so much to say about all of these words. And we have some slides that will explore these terms more specifically. But I want to focus on how this image really goes in a circle. It has a cycle, because, we can so often think of surrender as a very vulnerable, very weak event. I personally, when I first heard the word surrender, I thought of the white flag, I surrender, I give over to, I lost the fight, essentially. But I look at surrender as actually a very powerful and empowering word. So surrender is sort of at the top of this cyclical circle, and it leads into retrieve. So surrender also, I think it's seen as something that's quote unquote weak, because it has a sort of feminine energy of sort of allowing. And so as we move to this right-hand side of the circle, and we did go clockwise here because sometimes that's just an easier way for our brain to accept information, we move into the retrieve aspect of these 3 keys. And retrieve to me has a bit more of a masculine energy, that you're really going after something. You're very actively working towards retrieving. And sometimes all the time, it is very important to balance out the feminine and masculine energies that all of us have, the yin and the yang within us, this interplay of quote unquote opposites that exist simultaneously within all of us. And again, that's something that in our modern society, we're sort of encouraged and programmed to really just focus on one, and not the other, that it can't be both at the same time. But that is actually right where bliss exists, is in accepting and fully engaging with all realities, all aspects of our experience and our existence. So again, starting with surrender, sort of saying, okay, this is how it is. I'm going to start with this foundation of surrender, and then I'm going to move into retrieving, reclaiming, reestablishing, really finding and searching and seeking. So you can see how those two energies kind of feel like opposites, but of course they're very, very, very complementary. And then as we move a little bit further onto the other side of the circle, we move into receive, which of course relates quite closely to surrender. But once you have gone through the process of surrendering and then retrieving, you can experience reception of so many things. So many things. I mean, the possibilities are literally limitless and boundless. And then, of course, as you receive, the process starts all over again. So building a blissful life, again, there will be many events that contribute to that bliss, and they might take the form of something incredibly happy. They might take the form of something incredibly sorrowful. But because they have both those, and sometimes events have both of those things, some of my happiest moments in life have also been very pronounced, had pronounced grief involved in them. And I mean, I remember before I really began exploring personal development and spirituality, I didn't understand how to reconcile those. But that's what we do with these three keys of building a blissful life, of truly encapsulating this extraordinary possibility of what exists within us, this potential that calls to us so regularly. So again, your three keys: surrender, retrieve, receive. Simple, not always easy. Now let's explore specifically some additional words associated with surrender. And this really runs the full gamut, the scope of this, the synonyms of surrender. I love words so much. I speak French. I'm a Francophile. I've actually lived there 3 times in my life. And I was also a creative writing major in college. So words to me, oh my goodness, they just light me up. And I also not only love definitions, but I particularly love synonyms. So when I find a word that I want to know more about, I go straight for the thesaurus. And so here are some terms that I love that relate to surrender. Of course, we have succumbing, yielding, conceding, foregoing, relinquishing, but cessation, suspension, renunciation. But then we have really empowering words like entrust, relinquishment, acquiescence, letting go. And my true favorite, deliver up. Deliver up. It's saying, oh, this is what you've given me. I deliver myself. I deliver my experience upwards. And upwards, of course, that gets into a little bit of sort of a very dogmatic approach to spiritual life, to religion, but I'm just going to use that in a very general term, that you can sort of deliver up to something that is outside of you, that sort of higher intelligence, that higher power. You can use the term God, which I actually do resonate with, but the universe, spirit, the one song. I mean, so many terms. So whatever speaks to you, but I just love that idea of delivering up. And of course, as we employ these 3 keys, surrender, retrieve, and receive, towards building a blissful life, a lot of times we just have to say, okay, I have absolute influence and control over my experience, everything that I brought into my life, and I surrender to the energies that are at play in terms of my experience. And truly, I mean, another way to think of surrender is, again, this concept of relaxing. Oh, I get to surrender. I get to allow the universe to massage me, to just find, maybe some pain points, maybe some tightness in my body, and just massage out these points that have been created maybe by trauma, maybe by experiences, maybe by unprocessed emotions. And the universe is just going to help me move through these sort of stuck places in my body. And that might hurt sometimes, but then there's such incredible relief on the other side of that surrender, of that relaxing, of really just allowing the acceptance of everything as is. Oh, yes. Relax, let go, deliver up, surrender. Again, surrender as a very, very powerful, very empowering term. I'm going to take a sip of water and let that settle in for a second. Okay. I might just check in. I'm hearing to check in with the chat. Oh, but then I have to stop doing my screen. If you have any questions or any responses to specifically surrender, what is your concept of surrender? Please share that in the chat. I will return to the chat, but I would like to continue with these 3 keys and with the slides. And then we will go back to the chat. So key number 2, back to retrieve. Again, a little bit more of that masculine energy of reclaiming, repossessing, winning back, bringing back, rescuing, recouping, repairing, regaining, salvaging, recovering, restoring. And I love particularly that retrieve. So many of the synonyms begin with the RE. So it's a bringing back, again, just like reclaiming. I mean, all of these RE words, and this is a huge part of the collective energy that we have going on right now. I do enjoy the perspectives that astrology can provide us. And of course, multidisciplinary, multidimensional approach to personal development. I do tune into planetary influences, particularly the moon, which is our closest ally, as well. I mean, all of them have a role to play, but Mercury is really having a big influence on us right now. It's Mercury retrograde, which starts with RE, which is a time to reflect, replenish, recoup. And so actually, even as we are surrendering and employing this sort of divine feminine energy of receptivity, RE word, we are then that much more empowered, capable, and ready to retrieve that which is ours to begin with. The gifts that we have been given all along, the gifts we were bestowed when we came into our incarnate body, and the gifts that we are, the gifts that we want to deliver to the world. That is truly what this search for purpose really, that's the crux of it, that we are our own gifts, we are our own best medicine, and we want to deliver those gifts and that medicine to the world. And so retrieving ourselves, retrieving our gifts, reclaiming what is truly ours to experience and to share. I'm also hearing about the Tonglen practice that we did last night. It's the sort of concept of giving and receiving. So the retrieve, I guess, has something tied in with the giving, that you sort of have to retrieve so that you can not only receive, but give as well. Yeah. So right there, I'm surrendering to the messages coming through, but I'm also retrieving them and bringing them forth. Oh, I'm going to take another sip of water after going through that experience. Oh, and I'm also hearing, I love that retrieve has the word Eve in it. And I know a lot of you are new to my audience, but I do have a message called Dear Eve. It was actually my first experience channeling. It's a written message that speaks to the feminine in all of us, represented by the archetype of Eve, who we have come to know as a representation of feminine energy. But my message, Dear Eve, has a sort of mythical and very different take on who Eve was, and actually that she came first. So you can check that out on my hgrantstyle.com website on the blog. Okay, let's move on then to the third key in our blissful life building: receive. Receive. Accept, draw, earn, secure, get, take position, acquire, corral, inherit. Inherit. Reap, seize, collect, derive, redeem, gain, procure, perceive, catch, and obtain. So you can see how this word, we think of, okay, receive, like I have to receive the gifts. I have to accept that these are being given to me. And we can actually really struggle with receiving. This can be a huge hitch in the giddy up when it comes to really developing ourselves, exploring who we are, and again, really tuning into our power, our purpose, and what bliss means to us. It can be very, very, very difficult to receive. So that is why surrendering and retrieving precede receiving. And it really then also has this important aspect of the flow. So when we're not receiving, when we sort of get stuck, I think maybe hopefully it's a little bit easier to wrap your head around the concept of surrender with the structure that I gave around its definition from my perspective. And I think maybe that like concept of retrieving, it's like, oh yes, this is fun. I'm retrieving, I'm exploring, I'm going out there, I'm reclaiming. And we can sort of get stuck there in that retrieval. And so it becomes very important to let that cycle really come to fruition and come to this place of receiving, of reception, and to be here to really accept what has gone into that experience, that journey, and I'm hearing receive is also about integrating. And I know so many of you, like me, are on this quest for self-knowledge. And in this space of reception, this is something that really, again, becomes a block for people to receive the information and allow it to sort of percolate and integrate into your being, to allow your body to fully accept what you may have learned, what you may have experienced, how your perceptions may have opened up, and then to make that a part of you. And this receiving, I think what can be so difficult about receiving is that our ego gets in the way. And I mean, the ego gets such a bad rap. Such a bad rap. We need our egos. Our egos are an extraordinary gift from higher intelligence, but they can also cause a lot of interference. And the ego, it's actually ego annihilating. It's very bruising to the ego to receive, because it means that we need other people, that we are not just a one and I and only. That in receiving, we are receiving what was meant for us. We are receiving that interconnection to all of humanity, all of existence, the entire universe. Oh, I feel like my ego is like screaming right now, actually. Do you feel like yours is? Maybe a little bit. It's okay. It's okay. We can just give our egos a big hug and just say, I love you, ego. I love you so much. And now I am in charge. I am in charge. So I'm going to stop sharing for a brief moment. I want to check in with the chat quickly here. And oh, Dr. Sneha, hello. Check in with the chat to see what sort of responses we had. And then I have another round of slides that really gets into more of the nitty gritty of who we are, our encapsulation. So hello, I moved way back here. Okay. An oracle reading, wonderful. Oh my God, it was shot, the Matrix was shot in Chicago. I didn't know that. Roxanne, yes, kindred spirit. Courtney says, love the reminder to surrender and trust, really spoke to me. Yes, were there any words that, like, you know, when I hear a word that is true to me, when truth comes through, it hits my body like a chime. It's like percussion, like a chime, a cymbal, a note on a xylophone, just getting sort of struck. So if there are words in those sort of word banks that really speak to you, I would love to know what they are. So entrust spoke to Courtney, deliver and opening up, and surrender. Yes, opening up. And I mean, to me, relaxing. Like, I just get to surrender and relax. Yes. Courtney loves integration. Absolutely. Ooh, I love this. Jadalia says ego is edging God out. EGO. I have not heard that before. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much. Roxanne, yes, you get truth tingles too. It's so fun. And Suzanne says she loves the RE words. Great opportunity to reset. Yes, reset. So fabulous. Okay, so let's move back to the slides, unless anyone else has words that really spoke to them and popped out. Love inheriting our gifts for receiving. Ooh, Sonia, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so moving on to our next round of screens. I feel so honored to share this image with you. This image came to me as a download, and I received downloads at various times. And I look at them as blocks. Often they're blocks of thought. They come through as words. But in some instances, they come through as visuals, as symbols, as images. And so this was an experience that I had, and I want to share I call these 2 books. This is where I keep everything. I record my dreams. I record my to-do lists. I record insights. I record messages. And this was September 18th of this year. I drew this out. I had no context that I wrote about, but I just saw this image, this diamond shape, and this triangle, and this circle, and then this box within it. And in my mind, it was this perfectly clear image. And I wrote what I interpreted these aspects as representing. So the box, we have the ego; the circle, we have the self; the green triangle, we have the higher self; and then the diamond, we have the infinite self, which is a really foundational aspect of the work that I do. And so I sort of, sketched this out in my 2 book that night, and then I went to sleep. And in my dream, I saw a body, a being. So this sort of symbol here, this collection of symbols in the dream became someone who I did not recognize. I couldn't really tell if it was a male or a female. I just saw it as a human person. And I saw them experience trauma, and we'll get to this a little bit further down. And I saw something happen to this wholeness that showed me this image that I was given. This symbol had incredible power to help people understand our experience and what we go through and what is sort of occurring in this journey towards wholeness, because we all experience trauma. It's all relative. So I want to break down the components of this visual. Of course, we have the box of the ego. The ego is something that we sort of see as, you know, it identifies as I. It tends to identify as separate, and that this is me and I am me and everything else is outside of me. So sort of a very limited view. And of course, as I said before, the ego gets a very bad rap, but it is a very important aspect of it's an incredible tool that we can use when we get all parts of ourself on board. And before we really begin to explore that spiritual personal development journey, the ego can kind of get in the way and cause some problems. But really that's just because the ego has needs. It has, you know, it needs attention, it needs love, it needs our guidance. And so that box, we're not trying to get rid of this box. We are trying to work with it, which is what we're trying to do with all aspects of ourselves. It can be very easy to say, oh, I just want to work on this sort of very high level, you know, sort of upper chakra area. But of course, the ego has a space in sort of the lower chakras that has so much information for us, so much benefit for us. And really, the ego just wants to have attention, get love, and really participate in our experience. And if it's not getting the love and attention that it needs, and sort of, you know, a more nurturing approach to its existence, that's when it starts to like throw tantrums and really kind of get in the way of our really blissful life. And so the next component is this circle, which I looked at as the self. And when we get into this very sort of circular vision of ourselves, that's when we begin to recognize that we are so much more than this very I, me view of the world. It's more of a we view of the world. And Carl Jung looked at the self as a circle, as this very mandala-like vision of experience that just encompasses everything. And of course, you'll recognize this circle from the 3 keys. I did think of putting the 3 keys in a triangle, and that could also work. But when I was envisioning this presentation, again, that cyclical aspect of those 3 keys of surrender, retrieve, and receive tied in for me with that sort of mandala perspective of our experience of our existence. And that, again, there's this very cyclical aspect and, of course, interconnection and all encompassing. So I just love that blue circle. I just think it's so, so beautiful. And then with the green triangle, we move into the higher self, which is where, to me, the soul exists. Your specific soul. Probably your angels, your guides are in here. This is your higher self that wants the best for you, that has a vision of a beautiful, blissful future that it holds for you, even if you can't always see it. And even if you don't always act in your best interest towards that beautiful, blissful future and even present reality. The higher self is always holding that space for you. And I love that it came to me in the form of a triangle. I love triangles. To me, this is the symbol of delta, the symbol of change. The higher self is always welcoming change. And that change, woo, you hear that word and maybe you feel it where your ego is saying change. I don't want change. Change is dangerous. Things need to stay the same. Things are better when I'm safe and I know everything and I can predict everything and there's no uncertainty and there's no chaos. That's the ego speaking. The higher self says, oh, change? Absolutely. A huge part of creation, a huge part of existence, a huge part of being fully engaged with life. I mean, change happens when we create. It's just right there. And we are always changing. We cannot fight change. This is an opportunity to surrender to it, accept it, so that you can move into retrieving and receiving. So the higher self, love this triangle. And then the diamond, the infinite self. And I did want something that had more dimension to it, because I look at the higher self as the diamond body, which to me relates to this concept of the holy grail of supreme self-knowledge. And the infinite self, again, a really foundational premise of the transformational work that I lead my clients through, that the infinite self has this dimensionality that extends up and down to each side, forward and backward through all time and space. The infinite self is where even higher intelligence comes into play, our evolution as humans. I mean, the infinite self truly is infinite. And so a vision that it came to me when I originally started working in this space was what happens when you look in a mirror and you have a mirror behind you and you see yourself extending your reflection in all directions. So your infinite self is the self that is present with you throughout time, and the infinite self gives us the ability to work with especially our past, to heal the past and to envision the future. So the infinite self and the higher self, of course, do a lot of interacting, but the infinite self and the higher self, of course, encompasses all of your past experiences, but the infinite self is that concept that you were there always in the past. As you are now, you were there when you may have experienced something that someone did to you or an emotion that you didn't know how to handle. And we can harness the power of the infinite self to heal and also to bring us forward into the future that we truly desire, that beautiful, blissful life that obviously, and of course, is completely accessible to us right now. So that is the infinite self. And here again, we have this image that came to me in mid-September, is about 6 weeks ago, of these components really existing together, this concept of wholeness that I believe we come into the world being quite whole, but we have to go through the experience of those pieces sort of being dissected and picked apart and taken out of us. And that, looks different for everyone. It's all relative. And of course, that experience is also very influenced by trauma, which is a word I touched on earlier, that trauma occurs. Trauma takes lots of different forms. It is different for everyone. It's a part of being here in a human body. This could be physical trauma, emotional trauma, trauma at the hands of someone else, trauma at the hands of ourselves. Oh my goodness, I really was very good at delivering my own trauma. And when trauma occurs, that triangle, this is what happened in the dream image, the dream experience that I had, that I saw this whole being here and trauma occurred. I don't know what the trauma was because, again, the trauma is very universal, but it bounced out the green triangle. The higher self extracted itself from this wholeness and morphed into its own version of this whole self. So the higher self took on this new form in this vision that really related to and looked very similar to this original wholeness, but then it created these two separate parts. And it can be very easy for us to be disconnected from our higher selves. This is not something that we are taught in our modern society, to integrate all aspects of ourselves. And as the higher self morphs and moves away from us, again, that connection is always there, but it's about really cultivating it. And when we don't cultivate it, when we allow this sort of higher self to exist outside of us, when we don't converse with it, the higher self can take on a form that we don't recognize. that maybe seems very alien to us, and maybe even a little bit scary, like we don't really understand what's going on. And so in this personal development journey and this transformational aspect to existence, we bring back that connection between these two entities that might seem sort of separate, but of course they're not. The higher self, even when we feel like we don't have a connection to it, it is always connected to us. But bringing in a more conscious connection to that morphed energy, that higher self that again may have been sort of knocked out. Car accidents, any kind of trauma, but especially when it's a heightened trauma, that's when our being sort of like can't handle the sensation of the trauma, and there's a sort of dissociation of this higher self moving outside of us. So we work to bring this connection back online, back into our conscious matrix over which we have complete control, because we are encapsulated in this version of wholeness. And so again, bringing that back online, sort of surrendering to the fact that this connection exists. We don't have to keep these selves separate. We can bring them back together. We can synthesize them back into a whole, and look at this. The higher self has actually probably really maybe even benefited from that trauma. Maybe we were willing to experience those moments that caused us great pain and initiated this sort of separation of our wholeness, and allowed our higher selves to take on this new form, so that the triangle becomes its own diamond within the diamond, encapsulating this wholeness of all of us, all aspects of ourselves, the yin, the yang, the surrender, the retrieval, the reception, all of it in one beautiful package. You could even call this a pill, an encapsulated medicine that is us, is within us, and is always available to us. Again, it's just about cultivating that connection and that conversation. Whew. And now the really beautiful thing. Quick sip of water. I have one more slide. When we accomplish this, and this is a continual journey, this is not an event. There will be events along the way, but this is a constant application of really, again, bringing all aspects of ourselves back online, encapsulating who we are, the gifts that we have, the purpose that calls to us. When we do this, we can bring into full conscious awareness this connection. When we fully connect to ourselves, when we find a place of such extraordinary and radical self-love, acceptance, and approval for who we are, all aspects of who we are, that diamond within us with all of those components can just radiate outward and connect to that diamond, that all of those components that already exist within everyone else. When we heal ourselves, we heal the world. What we do for one, we do for all. And a term that I really love so much, especially in the midst of all of the upheaval, the uncertainty, oh my goodness, some real, truly unfortunate behavior from our leadership in the world that wants us to believe, that really speaks to our ego, that you are separate and everyone else is to blame for your trauma and your experience. When we sort of take that message and allow that message to exist, but encapsulate it within the circle of the self, the diamond of the reborn higher self and the infinite self, we can, again, connect to ourselves, love ourselves. We can connect to the world in a new way. We can love the world in a new way and everyone in it. And we can really, truly weave the new fabric of this interconnection that we can't deny. We've denied it and it doesn't work. We are all connected and there are no others. There are no others. When you look at someone else, they might not be the exact reflection that you see in the mirror, but when you look at someone else, when you experience them, you are experiencing yourself. There are no others. What we do for ourselves, we do for the world. That is the end of the encapsulation presentation. I would like to breathe in a moment myself. If you have any responses to all of that, I would love to hear it. How did the visuals speak to you? Was there anything that maybe even, you know, triggered you a little bit? Or did you feel any sort of opening in yourself? Do you feel any grief? I feel a little bit of grief personally. It's all our inheritance. That encapsulation is ours to discover. That medicine that's within us, that is within all of us. And I actually don't see many responses yet in the chat. Maybe people are allowing that to integrate. Oh my goodness, Suzanne. She says the most brilliant moment just occurred. Tell me what it is. I want to hear. We all want to hear. Oh, brilliance, bliss, happiness, joy. When you stated that the higher self departs, love the visuals. Lori, I'm glad you loved the visuals. I think that really helped. Yes, love one another as I have loved you. Oh, Velvet. Oh, yes. Oh, I'm here. I'm feeling the truth in that. Yes. So Suzanne says, when you stated that the higher self departs, you had this brilliant moment that it actually may be positive. Yeah, oh, I have chills all over my body hearing that, Suzanne. That's so beautiful. Courtney says, gorgeous and really resonating. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I think of wholeness as original medicine or a potion, so your description resonates. I'm so glad. And Suzanne follows up with, because it forces the higher self to then reintegrate back, and when it does, it is exalted. Oh, yes, it is. It's exalted, and it actually is even more whole and can better connect with the infinite self. It's not just a triangle within the diamond, it becomes a diamond itself. And it makes complete sense. From Patty, thank you for the visual. You're welcome. Suzanne, God bless you as well. And oh, Courtney, loving self as act of activism and service. Woo, 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 woo. You are really lighting me up right now with that. Yes, absolutely. That is such a beautiful, I'm tearing up because that you have read the messages that are coming through. Me and all of us, this is what we're being called to right now and always. And I'm also remembering, oh shoot, I had something to say. Oh no, I lost it. I'm sorry. I think it's all of the delivering the information to you, experiencing this space together. Thank you, Lori. My new mantra, what we do for one, we do for all. Yes, we are programmed to think that taking care of ourselves is selfish. Well, let me tell you, no one's going to take better care of you than you are. No one. And if we don't take care of ourselves, if we don't love ourselves, how can we possibly love others? How can we possibly deliver ourselves to the world from a place of wholeness so that we are so whole we can give? Give, 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 and receive. Such a rush of emotions from Tamara, all spot on and perfectly stated. What a brilliant lightness. Oh, thank you so much, Tamara. And yes, the depth, multifaceted. And Roxanne, thank you for saying that about Christ. This is Christ's message. Christ is within us all. We don't need to wait for the second coming. And I think that I'm going to go out on a limb here. I was raised a Catholic, and I am so grateful for my Catholic upbringing. I have a very beautiful relationship with the energy of Jesus, and I believe that he is here. We don't have to wait for one person to come to us, that he played a very specific role in our history. And that message of hope, that message of healing, that we can heal ourselves and we can heal others and we can live in a beautiful, blissful, peaceful, extraordinary world. Yes, 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 yes. And of course, many archetypes come into play as we bring that back online. I love archetypes. We have some incredible speakers that speak to all of that this week. But I think that you might find that this week and in my work going forward, that is absolutely an underlying aspect of not just golden threads, but all of what I bring to the world is this concept of the golden rule. Treat others as you want to be treated. Well, how about treating yourself as you want others to treat you? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Natasha says, so interesting. It was a very creative approach to what I understand as neurobiological splitting. I think this happens when we experience trauma, especially as children. Thank you. I experienced this and it was my higher power that got me through. Oh, Natasha, again, chills. Yes, I love science so much. And I did touch on my Catholic upbringing. I had a very liberal, I can't say advanced, but my school taught creationism and Big Bang Theory simultaneously. To me, there was no separation between the two, that all of science and religion are completely interconnected. And in fact, science comes from spirituality. Science comes from an exploration of trying to explain spirit. So that is something I touch on also in a speaker interview this week, that science actually is now starting to catch up again with spirituality, which is in the quantum physics realm. But yes, I love psychology, I love neurobiology, I love quantum physics, and I also love tarot. So, we can love all of these things. We can explore everything because all of it is us. That's the personal development journey. Wishing you a lovely day. Lori, thank you so much for being here. We are all going to sign off in just a few moments. That is it, says Natasha. And for heaven to be on earth, there can be no separation. Yes, heaven is on earth right now. It is up to us to choose heaven, to choose bliss, to choose joy. Our minds have such incredible capacity to create either a hell of heaven or a heaven of hell. That is up to us. And so we get to choose heaven on earth right now. And merci pour tout. Merci à vous aussi, Sylvie. Bonne journée. Okay, everyone, I am feeling that now we are ready to close this out. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you enjoy golden threads on this same profound level that you experienced encapsulation. I wish you so much joy and love and ignition and activation this week as you explore the extraordinary wisdom and insights and inspiration of these speakers. It was such a transformational journey for me to create this summit. These conversations, I know that even personally, I will go back to them again and again and again. So I look forward so much to you experiencing that as well. The first interviews will go live at 12 p.m. Eastern. So in just about an hour, you'll be receiving an email about that. And I also want to invite you to another masterclass on November 6th. I will be teaching metanoia. So a little teaser for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to all of you. Thank you to your guides, your spiritual team, to all of the teachers that you have in your awareness that probably brought you into my my space here with Golden Threads. Thank you for being out there, because I created Golden Threads for you, and I hope that you will not just benefit personally from what you experienced this week, but that you'll share it with those around you. And if that's sharing the event itself, so beautiful, such a beautiful way for people to access that on a really direct level. But particularly, even if you have just one moment of an aha, really write it down, keep a journal, and really like deliver that to the world. So thank you so much. Enjoy this week, and I wish you so many blessings on your journey. Thank you, and until the next.